Hello. Welcome to another episode of The Blank Canvas. This is a really exciting project focused on reading accessibility around AI and automation. And doing so in a very real-time, daily walk through the way. Typically, the way this goes, before I dive into it, this is not my typical setup. Normally I have my old boom mic, and humidity is doing me more favors, but today's a different story. So, bringing you guys into it. So, make sure I am working one screen today as well, so it's a bit different. And typically what I do on these daily logs is I spend 10 to 15 minutes really diving into one of these kind of core pillars, really focused on, bridging and getting past all jargon that exists within the current, atmosphere, domain, we would say. Yesterday, I walked through a playbook that I'm doing in terms of combining market research and a very active marketing automation project that I think is going to be really cool. The project itself, I hinted towards it. Today, I'll be spending the next 10 to 15 minutes really diving into the architecture behind it. So, the project in question, just to kind of give you the bigger picture here, it's meant to be an iOS shortcut that you can scan and basically create an AI database out of with very minimal actual friction on the customer side. Why that's important is you can then use your written stuff, your handwriting, your whiteboards to then create actual assets that you can create and repurpose, right? So in order for that to really work, diving into kind of how this actually looks like, it's all being built with no code. However, it functions with very much code software architecture in mind. So the front end is meant to be just a chat that you can interact with and generate stuff with. N8N would be the one to kind of create that. For those unfamiliar with N8N, it's a kind of make.com alternative that allows you to really build automations, not just self-hosting, but also, being able to pass it on to somebody in a very easy way. It's really great for these kind of like AI agent use cases specifically. Make.com is better for kind of the automation workflow side of things and really building those features and functionality. And it can do that as well, but it is more technical, and if you're new to the space, it's not as easy. The next piece is then this process of vectorizing. So vectorizing is a concept in itself. I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes really diving into it. So you'll see on the left here, I have an analogy where I'm kind of making sense of it. Why would somebody want to create vectors? So essentially, let's put it like this. A vector embedding, if you can imagine, is like a barcode on the back of a library book. In order to kind of reverse engineer that and search through a giant catalog stuff and then have those kind of numbers indexed in a way that you can quickly reference, quickly dig up, quickly kind of pull through, there's a few things you need in place. So one is the actual embedding itself. So in our case, we're using OpenAI. There's a native embedding feature right in it. So today I won't be doing this build entirely live, just kind of giving the architecture layout. Then the next episode is going to be really touring how I'm actually building it. So from here, OpenAI embedding, what it allows you to do is essentially translate your written text, whatever the OCR, the optical character recognition, picks up from the iOS shortcut. Basically, whatever text comes through, we then translate that into a special language, which then numerically assigns it a code, a unique identifier. The next piece is actually collecting that information in a way that you can use it, and that's using something called Pinecone. So Pinecone is one of many services, and it often scares people because of how verbose it can get. Now, the alternative to this would be using something called PostgreSQL. Again, sticking into the no-code side of things, we're not going to dive into this, but if you are on the code side, this is a really great tool to pick up and learn. I'm still far from decent at it. I'm still learning actively, day in, day out. But anyways, once you pull Pinecone you're able to actually, with no code, build a catalog that you can then reference those numbers, pretty much build a shelf, if you can imagine, out of a library. And then you can imagine the librarian, somebody who actually is able to overlook the entire catalog as it grows, and ensures that it stays within cost limits, and it's working efficiently, and that the search time between wanting to look for something and actually finding it isn't too long. In our case, we're using Firestore for that. So again, there's a number of tools out there. Firebase directly works with Google, and there's a great free tier. This is one of the main reasons why I chose to go with Firestore, is because you can get up to 20,000 right a day, still stay within the free plan, up until you're using a gig worth of information. A gigabyte of text is actually quite a substantial amount of text. I'm pretty sure it's hundreds, if not near, for like thousands, I want to say. But I can't fact check that until I actually do it. There's estimates and all that jazz, but it really comes down to how complex, how detailed the text will get. But the idea there is that this would go into Pinecone, and for each user, each actual person to look through, it collects information about them specifically. So if you imagine this, there's a lot of layers, right? There's the layer of actually scanning the page, putting it into embedding, actually capturing it, keeping it in a shell. And then the other layer of automating the management of that and automating the storage management, essentially. And that's where this kind of comes into play. So yeah, that's kind of the combination. That's the architecture we're looking to build. Again, with no code. It's really just combining these things in a way that really builds accessibility around it. One note I will make as well, there's a few different approaches you can kind of take from this project. I assume if you're watching this, you're either considering creating it for yourself to kind of use as a marketing repurpose piece, follow in the good ways of documenting life, or you're just looking to actually use the tool itself. Over time, this series, I will be creating a separate playlist for it and actually indexing how I do it, and I'm going to be showcasing it over and over, because this is one of those products that will constantly improve. There's better ways to intake information, better ways to store it. This is kind of the bare bone MVP, something I can build, decently quickly, given the learning curve. So I also know, I think it's worth saying too, that if you do go down the route of trying to build something like this yourself, learning how to create vectors, there's a lot of upside for you, because then you have the magic power, I would say, of being able to approach anybody that has a ton of mess, a ton of catalog, a ton of information just kind of scattered around. And you can approach them with this, and kind of like a vacuum from like Luigi's Mansion. You get rid of the ghosts, you get rid of the scary stuff, and you just kind of pull away, and you can then output something structured, useful, genuinely productive for them. And that's a great superpower. And I think even for yourself, learning how to do that, it can seem daunting at times, but there's a good phrase, and I kind of wanted to start with this, but I'll end with it, is I think I got this from Myron Golden, that thinking is the hardest work we do. If something is not working, there's something you don't know. And if you can hedge yourself, if you can put yourself in position to spend your thoughtful, meditative self against amusement, against entertainment, and really focus on what is the potential loss of not thinking about something, and also understand the limbic friction, the actual resistance you experience by context switching, right? If you're trying to learn something, but you got 30 other things on your to-do list, go clear the to-do list. Go, free up the space so that you can dive deep and not just have the width and breadth. And that's a lot of what this project will be preaching and kind of pushing for. As we're repurposing written material, we're really looking at how can we take the Michelangelo approach of seeing the angel in the marble and carving until you set it free, seeing the actual utility behind what you can attract, how you can engage, and how you can delight. How can you actually deliver something useful in real time to leave an impact? And that's really why I titled this the project as dramatic as I did. The world has all the answers. I should note as well, this is a project from 2021. And I kind of was sitting on the shelf, ironically, until GPT came around, and I'm now picking it up because I see a real purpose, especially the business utility behind bringing it to the market. And it also hasn't, for whatever reason, as simple as it is, isn't commonplace. A lot of people have endless notebooks and, notes that they are collecting, and there's no reason to toss them, right? So let's bring back the screen here. That being said, this was a quick 10-minute shot. Just kind of walking you through the architecture on it. Again, very, very simplistically, the aim is not to overwhelm and throw a bunch of jargon at you. It's just showing you how straightforward the grid really is. So really excited for this. Stay tuned. The next bundle of episodes will be kind of walking through this and yeah, diving into more detail. I'll see you guys in the next one.